Olá a todos, sejam então bem-vindos aqui a mais um episódio de Histórias de Luz e hoje temos mais uma convidada que não é portuguesa, vem de Inglaterra, é a Rachael Talibart e vai estar connosco a falar sobre o seu trabalho que muitos de nós admiramos. Ela é fotógrafa de paisagem, dedicando-se mais propriamente à fotografia de paisagem costeira, tendo um trabalho que é muito conhecido pela sua fotografia de ondas. Pelo menos foi assim que eu a conheci. E é por aí que vamos começar a conversar, por algumas das imagens mais famosas dela, e vamos falar um bocadinho a fundo da imagem e dos nomes que ela dá às imagens e porquê, etc. Portanto, foi uma conversa muito interessante. Há alguns episódios engraçados aí devido às imagens que eu escolhi, porque ela pediu-me para ser eu a escolher as imagens e ela não sabia quais eram antes de eu as mostrar, por isso foi muito interessante. Espero que gostem e vamos já passar para falar com a Rachael. Até já! Hello, Rachael. Good morning, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm sure that the people that usually watch my channel will be very pleased to know that we will be talking with you because a lot of people here love your work, including me. So it will be a very nice chat talking about your work and how you go about it. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
Actually, I wanted to start this conversation because I know that photography was not always your profession. Can you tell us a little bit how it came to be? So how did photography actually made into your daily work, like being your full-time job?
Very, very slowly. I was always a keen photographer from my teens, but really just a happy snapper, as we might call it, taking photographs of things I saw that interested me, not really thinking very hard about how to compose the picture or definitely not thinking about light. I think for a long time, beginner photographers think about the subject in the photograph. They don't think about the fact that actually it's the light that's really the subject. And I certainly was guilty of that for decades, maybe. My first career was actually as a lawyer in the City of London, doing corporate commercial court litigation, which sounds as boring as it was. I kept the hobby of photography all through that, but it was a hard job, very demanding in terms of time. And so the only time I really made photographs was when I was on holiday, and we used to travel a lot. I would always take a camera and just record what I saw still. And then when my second child was born, my daughter, I decided that I'd had enough in the city. And so I gave up that career, and frankly, I've never regretted that decision. And I went back to university and did 2 more degrees while raising the children, so studying part-time and raising my family. And I just finished the second one, which was a master's, and I had to make a decision. Would I do a PhD or would I do something else? And my daughter by then, who's my younger child, she was in her teens and needed me less. And slowly photography, which had always been a hobby, had started to become more. And it was beginning to sort of insist that I devote my time to it rather than anything else. And so I decided ultimately not to pursue a PhD and instead to see if I could actually make a career out of photography. And that was back in April 2015 that I made that decision. So it's not that long ago, really. No. It's 6 years ago. And I became fully professional, business-like accounting and all of that at the beginning of 2016. And and I'm very happy that I made that decision. I don't always make good decisions, but that was a good one.
Well, from someone that did a PhD, you did the perfect choice, because I think, well, the PhD for me was the thing that made me make the same decision. I was it was too much. It's too demanding. It's too much time that you have to put in and I don't know if you get as much back as you put in actually. So good decision.
Okay. That's good to know. Good to know. Someone who's been there.
So yeah, it's not been long ago, but you made it. You made it like your career just boomed very fast. Yeah, because I mean, there's a reason for that, because your work it's actually very good.
Thank you.
And the ocean became your subject matter because I mean you live by the coast, so you have a very intimate relation already with your subject. But I mean the waves and the aesthetic that you look for, like the big waves and all those shapes and all of that. How do you why is that attractive to you?
Well, I grew up, as you say, I grew up living by the coast. I don't now. In fact, since I was 22, I've lived inland, but still in the south of England.
Yeah.
But I grew up until I was 22 living at the coast. And in fact, it was about 100 yards from our front door for most of that time. So it was easy to go down to the beach. You know, I used to come home from school and the beach was our playground, you know, go down and investigate the rock pools or swim in the sea or just whatever, enjoy it. So it was always there. And then the other big thing, which probably if anyone's read anything about me before will also know, is that I grew up sailing. My father was a very keen yachtsman.
Yeah.
And a very ambitious one. I'm not talking dinghy sailing. It was a boat that you could sleep on. Yeah. And we would, every weekend, we would go away on the boat unless, you know, there was a massive storm or something. And all of the school holidays. And in the summer, we would go away for a month every year and live on the boat and go up and down the coast of the European continent or go along the British coast to Cornwall, in fact. Yes, it does. It sounds so exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There was a downside, which you may know about, which is that I am quite prone to motion sickness. And actually, I am proof that it's not true that you will get over it after. I never have ever got over it. So sailing was quite often a torment, actually, but there were obviously good times. And when you are what I would say a poorly sailor, you know, someone who doesn't do well with sailing, you can't go into the cabin and read a book or something on sea crossings. You have to stay up on deck, otherwise you just feel so much worse. And so there was nothing to do but look at the sea. And I used to look at the shapes the waves made and imagine, you know, all kids are imaginative. I was too, you know, I'd imagine mountain scenes in the waves, you know, they can look like mountains.
Yeah.
Or I'd imagine creatures, and I loved reading. I loved novels. So of course I used to do a lot of creative writing. So all of that imagination was very connected in my head with the sea. I mean, I can remember just finding the shapes that the wake of the boat made really interesting. So I think that obsession has stuck since those years.
Okay.
And it's never gone away.
Well, yeah. I mean, since you always got sick, I can see why the monsters came to be.
Absolutely.
And that actually takes us to one of your images, and let me know if you are seeing the picture in full size now.
Oh yes, Loki.
Loki, yeah. This is just to start with, it's a very striking image, of course. And the first question I want to make before going a bit deeper into why do you call it Loki and all of that stuff, I always wondered if when you were here taking this photograph, after you have taken it, did you realize what you just made? I mean, did you have the perception that you actually made something striking, or was it only later when you got home and processed the image that it came to life to you?
Well, this is an interesting picture to ask that question about, because on that day which was, I even know the date because I'm in that file on Lightroom so much. It was 8th of February 2016, and it was a wonderful storm, a storm called Storm Imogen here, which was, in my opinion, easily the best storm for photography we've had on the South Coast in 6 years. I've even named my car Imogen after it. I know, I'm completely mad. But it paid for the car, so there we go. And I took 3,000 photographs in 6 hours that day because it's high speed photography. It's you have to think of this it's not like landscape photography. It's like sports or wildlife photography. So you're a high speed continuous drive, you know, bursts, 1,000th of a second shutter speed, and you're going for it. And it's all about spotting the wave and reacting quickly. And when you take 3,000 photos in 6 hours, you don't know that you've caught. Now, there were 1 or 2 pictures I made that day that I remember seeing through the viewfinder as I clicked the shutter. And those were the ones I went looking for first when I came to review the pictures in Lightroom. But this one I didn't remember at all. And there was a reason for that, because obviously it's a square from a rectangle. And to the left, in the raw file, to the left of Loki here, there is a bigger splash, but it's not an interesting shape. So as I sort of perused the pictures in Lightroom, I used to keep looking at the bigger splash and thinking, it's not very interesting, and moving on. Actually, 6 months later, that one day as I was perusing the files, my eyes slid right and I saw Loki. And of course I thought, my goodness, it was actually slightly creepy, laughing at me for 6 months without me noticing. I mean, I think that the lesson from that, which I teach my my mentees and my workshop clients, is don't be a tidy photographer. Don't delete. Well, they come back from a shoot and they go through and they pick 2 or 3 pictures that they like and delete the rest, and they're very tidy. But what you're looking for may change. We all change as artists over time. You know, I've got some pictures that, in fact, one I recently published on social media that is from that day. And I only found it during this last lockdown.
That's true.
If I'd been a tidy photographer and just picked the best and deleted the rest, it would have been a disaster. I think what you're looking for as an artist changes over time.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, even in the stuff that I do as a nature landscape photographer, pictures sometimes that I like when I take them, they become not so much of my taste a few years later, and the other way around. So it's we are always growing, and our taste for different aesthetics is always changing. So I agree with you, and my catalog is also a bit of a mess because I have folders with 1,000 images, and 900 or more don't really matter today, but I never know. I agree with you 100%. And now a little bit deeper into Loki. So Loki, for the ones that don't know, it's a Nordic. It's from the Nordic mythology, and it's a name that makes sense because it can change shape or form, and this is a perfect example of that. And I wanted to ask you, how did mythology came into a lot of your images? So how did you do you have any interest in mythology? Like your master's, it's in literature and art. Did you study some of this, or it's just something that you are interested outside of your academic career?
I've always found mythology fascinating anyway, because I think myths are the stories that entire cultures tell themselves to explain the unexplainable. I think when you think about myths like that, they just become the most incredibly fascinating thing. Just love them. But yes, in full answer to your question, also, so my first degree was law, obviously, because I became a lawyer. Was a BA in English literature, and then the third degree was a master's in Victorian literature and art. But during the BA, I did a course on Homer. It was about the Odyssey and the Iliad, and also the archaeology side of that, which was fascinating, frankly. And maybe I should have become an archaeologist. Anyway, I was never good at science, so. I found that actually, even though that was probably off topic for that degree, I found that the most interesting course that I did for the whole of that BA. It was utterly engaging. The Iliad, for me, is one of the greatest poems ever written, and so translatable to now. Honestly, you couldn't believe it was written and, in fact, told for centuries before it was written, so long ago. I mean, it's about things that happened in 1300, I want to say BC. No, it's incredible. So it's beautiful as well. And the stories, the myths behind it all are so engaging, so exciting. And then, of course, the Odyssey, second favourite. I like the Iliad better, but the Odyssey is about the sea. So it's even more on point. So when it came to naming my Sirens series, it just seemed to click for me, because I think that wonderful myths, the sort of the stories cultures create, but they become timeless. That's what makes a myth instead of just a story. And I wanted these waves to be timeless. You know, there were waves that looked like that in 1300 BC, and there will be waves that look like that long after we're gone as well. So myths just seem to click. Yeah.
Actually, that was a curiosity that I had, and I had no idea what the answer was going to be. Well, let us see another one. So this one, I chose this image because, I mean, at least in the beginning, if we scroll through your work on social media, in the beginning, it seems that you were more inclined to this kind of aesthetics, so more like big waves and strong. At least it's what you seem to be sharing. Probably you were doing other stuff as well. But I don't know if this is the idea, but I mean, in this image, you can clearly see the sea makes us feel small, makes us feel small, and it's very intimidating, and I mean, it goes back to your childhood experience, I guess. And I think this picture, it's a little bit, at least to me, it makes us feel as we should feel in this world, small, because that's what we are here, and sometimes we think we are bigger than we actually are.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this was in any shape or form the idea behind the image when you made it. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So this one's called Pounce, because I think that big slash looks a bit like a big cat or a polar bear. This is an unusual photograph for me in that it's got people in it. That's very, very rare for me. But it did seem to me when working on this body of work, Sirens, it seemed to me good to have at least one storytelling picture. And this was in the book. Unfortunately, the book designer messed up enormously and put the fold with the double page spread, put the gully, if you like, the gutter between the pages right through the face of the wave. But never mind. You know, when you work with publishers, you don't get much control. But it was important to have that storytelling shot for the book. Just, I think people like to be able to understand a little bit better what's going on. But for most of my photographs, I avoid having land, I avoid having the wall, and I avoid having people. But to your more interesting and deeper point and question there, absolutely. And in all of my storm photographs, I am, I think, trying to express how the sea makes me feel. And it does, it makes me feel very small. But that can sound negative. It doesn't make me feel small in a negative way. Now, other things can. So I can remember taking my children to Universal Picture Studios in America and having to queue for the best ride, the one that you can't go there without going on. And the queue was absolutely enormous. And you're sort of herded like sheep. And that is a horrible feeling there, that you feel like an ant in a giant ant farm and very unimportant. And I didn't enjoy that at all. But the way the sea makes you feel small is quite different.
Yeah.
I think that ultimately there's something very life-affirming about spending time by the sea, but also humbling in the right sense of that word. I cannot bear the modern use of the word humbled, where people say, oh, thank you for giving me this Oscar, I'm humbled. They're so not humbled, they're honoured. Let's use humbling properly.
Yeah.
But the sea does humble you. It makes you feel unimportant. And it also makes all of the concerns in your life that the rest of the time just seem huge, it makes them seem unimportant too.
Yeah.
It kind of resets your sense of priorities in a very positive way.
Yeah. I agree with you, because I have the same feelings when I'm out in the mountains. Yeah, especially if you are alone. If you are alone and you're just looking and just about talking about this, I get the goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes. I'm the same. I was just rubbing my arms.
Because I mean, when you are up there or by the coast in such a intimidating environment, at least for me, it's that. I mean, if there is a storm in the mountains, if it starts suddenly like raining a lot or snowing a lot, or if just fog comes in and you stop seeing anything around you, I mean, I feel like if something happens to me, I mean, I'm just like this, very, very small. So it's an interesting feeling. And as you said, it resets your mind to a way where you, I mean, it's very hard to explain actually, but I guess if you feel it once, you know what I mean. But it's at least for me, it's hard to put it into words. Yeah. But and then you have a lot of your work that it's monster-like, if I can use this word.
Yes, you can.
but you also have a lot of other things. It's not all like that. You have a lot of contrast. So you have this kind of work, but then you have also a lot of like relaxing and smooth images. But you also have, before we going into those ones, you also have, because it's interesting, because you have storms, you have calm, but then you have something in between, which I find it very interesting. It's not like black and white. You have a whole spectrum, because you can also have that contrast in just one image. I mean, like here, I mean, you have in the foreground, or yeah, in the foreground where you have the sea, it's very calm, but then you have a storm coming or going. And my question is, do you, well, clearly you don't, because you are here shooting this and you shoot other stuff. I mean, when you go out to photograph, do you look for any kind of specific weather, specific conditions, or you just go out and enjoy what the ocean gives you back?
Yeah, the second, because like anyone, I mean, just because you make photography your career doesn't actually mean you get more time for photography.
Oh yes.
Yes. You're doing all the other things that go with running a business, and so to do my own photography, I have to diarize that, and then I will go, even if the forecast is for plain blue skies and harsh sunlight all day. There's always something to do. And anyway, I think even if I don't bring home a picture that I am pleased with, I've still benefited emotionally and psychologically from being out, and that makes you more creative. So that's probably why I have this widespread of types of picture, because I go and visit the sea in all of its moods. It's extraordinary to me where you found this one, because this one, I must have published it somewhere, but honestly, it's not on my website, and I don't think it's on my Instagram, is it?
I think it's on your Facebook. That's where I actually went through.
Oh, I'm scared now. What else you're going to show? Because this picture would be formative work, I think. It does, and there's some things I really like about it, otherwise I would never have published it on Facebook at all. It's a very old photograph. There's something I desperately want to change about it now I'm seeing it again. So that's funny. But what it does show, I think, is, I mean, it's interesting to talk about something different, actually, so that's fine. It shows, I think, even back then, which is back at the start, really, that I was really interested in the sea and the sky and not in a traditional landscape photograph, because off to the left are the White Cliffs of the Seven Sisters in East Sussex, which are a huge honeypot location. As I know this is a Portuguese broadcast, I'll probably just try and clarify some crazy English idioms when I use them. And honeypot, we mean, you may not everyone know what we mean, but you'll have an equivalent word for it. It's an iconic location that landscape photographers all go to, and there's a sort of standard photograph. And even back then, all those years ago, I was looking somewhere else. I was ignoring the honeypot.
Yeah, I mean, it's either because this then happens in other images, like I mean, this one a little bit less, because like the whole mood is a bit towards the more somber side because of the light, but you still have the sky with a lot of detail and a lot of texture, and you see a storm coming or going, but then the ocean again, it's again calm. So it's interesting, this contrast that you have in your images. And one thing that you said when I asked if you go out in certain weather conditions, and you said that you go basically when you can, because as you told, it's not because we are photographers that we have more time for it. Because sometimes I'm also at home and the weather is nice to go out, but then I have to give an online workshop, so I can't go out. I mean, it's not all about photographing. It's the same thing when people tell me, "Oh, you were a marine biologist. How fun! You are always diving." No, 99% of the time I'm sitting in front of a computer. It's not like the romantic view that people have of this kind of job, like landscape photographer or marine biologist. But you said like you had to go even if there is harsh light. But now I put the question in another way. If you had unlimited time to go out, would you still go out every day independently of the weather, or would you pick a certain type of conditions?
If I could go every single day and my diary was permanently clear, I would start to look at the forecast a bit more. Because, not least because I do have an hour and a half's drive to get to the beaches where I like to photograph. So that's not particularly big. I mean, if we were talking if you were North American now, you would think that was a big drive at all. But I'm still slightly, I'm concerned about my carbon footprint and so on. So I would like to try and make my visits as productive as possible. So yes, if I lived in a wonderful world where I could go whenever I wanted, I would look for a promise of interesting light, and it doesn't have to be a storm.
Okay.
It could be interesting light in other situations, but what I would probably choose not to photograph would be plain blue skies in the middle of the summer, because the sun's too high. Landscape photographer, so I know you get this. It's beating down from on high. No clouds to soften it, and that light is the least likely to produce a pleasing photograph. I'm not saying it's impossible to get a good photo in those conditions, but if you have free choice, that would be the sort of weather I would avoid.
Okay, yeah. And then I really like this one, because the other day I saw a picture of a friend of mine that was, I mean, the elements within the frame were more or less the same, although there was an island in his picture, but there was also a storm going on, and there was also a boat. The difference is, I'm not sure if this was your post-processing or if it's like this, but the boat is black.
That boat it's called Artemis. I don't know who owns it. It's actually very dark navy blue. But you can see that in this photograph. I've deliberately, what I have done is I've taken out the name of the boat because it is in white right up the sail in really big letters, and that would spoil it. But yes, it's quite a sight, this boat, because it is so dark. And there were other boats out that day with white sails. And then you have this dark, slightly sinister boat ghosting about in the distance. And I found that yacht fascinating. I don't know who owns it. It doesn't matter. I've taken the name off it. But I just remember it was called Artemis, which of course is from Greek myth. So that was nice.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what caught my eye, because usually when you see something like this, it's a white boat. Yeah, and the fact that you actually took the little bit of white that was on the boat, I mean, still goes even further, because I notice the thing that, I mean, the sky is very dramatic, everything is very dramatic, but the thing that caught my eye in this image was the boat being black, because it basically increases the dramatic effect of the image. And makes it look a bit more dark. I mean, not because the boat is dark, but the mood becomes even heavier. It's fun to know that you took the white letters from the sail.
I'm very happy to do things like that. That's
yeah. And I mean, it changes the whole thing, really. Yeah. Because if there was white there, it would be completely different. Yeah, and probably it wouldn't caught my eye the way you caught it.
Well, there's something quite spooky about a yacht that has no identifying features.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
almost like a silhouette.
Yeah. Because I mean, it could be a silhouette if the sun was behind it, but when I saw that there was no light, like direct light or directional light, and the boat was still black, I was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've printed this very, very large for clients, and when you it really large, there is some white on the boat. The cabin is white. I don't know why they haven't painted the cabin black. I think that would be really cool, but they haven't. The cabin is white, but it seems to be all right. I think the important thing is that the sails are black.
Yeah. I mean, the cabin is probably white, not to get too warm inside when it's sunny.
That might be it, yes.
But then you also have work like this, that it's more like ethereal, if I would say. This image even looks like you took it from the air.
I took it from a cliff top.
Okay.
This is Beachy Head Lighthouse, and Beachy Head is the highest cliff, I believe.
Okay.
Someone who knows better, but I believe it's the highest cliff on the south coast. It's a white chalk cliff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a cliff because of that, where a lot of people go to jump off, which is very sad.
Okay.
But that's not what this picture is about, obviously. But this picture was, I called it clearing fog because I think that sounds more hopeful and positive. But the truth of it is that this was before a workshop. I don't take photographs when I'm leading workshops.
Yes.
But if I can get down there early and do a little bit of photography before I meet clients, I do. And this was right at the start of a workshop day. And the fog was swirling around the lighthouse. And I love that mystery where you can't see everything in a picture. I think that engages the viewer more. If you just show the viewer everything, they just see it and move on. But if there's mystery in a picture, they will engage with it more. But in fact, what then happened was the fog closed in for the rest of the day, and my workshop was white cliffs and lighthouses, and I don't think we saw either for the whole day. I think my group maybe photographed every single tree up there because that was the only thing we could do.
Actually, that's interesting for you to say, because I mean that happens to me a lot as well. Actually, I didn't have this in my head to ask you, but it's an interesting question. How do you deal with that? How do you feel when that happens? Like when you take people on a workshop, like the last workshop I did in November, it was exactly like that. I went early. I left my house at 3 in the morning because it's a 3-hour drive to the place. And then I was doing sunrise, and then people arrive in the middle of the morning before lunch. I had an amazing morning. Nice light, low clouds passing through the mountains. Everything was perfect. They arrived at midday. It was raining and completely, you couldn't see anything from midday that day until mid-afternoon the next day, which is when the workshop ended. So how do you feel in those situations?
I have mixed feelings. In fact, I had not quite as bad as that, but my first workshop since lockdown was on Monday this week, and it was lovely. I was meeting the clients at 11, and then we were going to shoot right through to sunset, which was at 7:30. But I got up at stupid like 4 a.m. and got down to their location to do my own photography for sunrise. We're not allowed to stay away at the moment from home. We're still locked down, so there's no way to do a sunrise workshop really with clients.
Yeah.
So I got down there super early, and it was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, just as you described. Beautiful clouds, soft light. The beach was empty. It was a really big low tide, and I went down to the water's edge, and it was just stunning, and had a lovely time. And then, of course, by 11 o'clock, we've got plain blue skies, beating down sunshine, which lasted for the rest of the day. But having said that, we had an amazing workshop because I think that when the conditions are dreadful, that's when people learn more.
Yeah.
You have I bet you've seen this too. If you have spectacular light, everyone just does what they've always done because they just want, oh my goodness, I've got to capture it. I'll just do what I always do, and just snap, snap, snap. And when the light's bad, then they're ready to learn, and you have to be so much more creative.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I just think that actually makes for a better workshop at the end of it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you struggle that you learn, yeah?
However, when it's absolutely driving rain, that's really hard, isn't it? Because not every client has a weather sealed camera.
Exactly.
And it's hard to keep spirits up. So
yeah.
I empathize. How did you cope?
I mean, everybody was out photographing anyway.
Good.
One of the clients, I actually warned him a few times, but he kept on shooting. But a few days later, his camera was dead. I mean, it's hard because I was fine. Yeah, I don't mind being in the rain, but when you see people that are not ready, although I actually always tell, it can rain, it can be windy, so just be prepared. But when you are in it, it's not the same as just reading it on the description of the workshop.
Absolutely.
And people struggle a lot to, if you have an umbrella, you have a tripod, you have a camera, then you have to put a polarizer. It's too much. And if you are starting out in photography, and if you are not comfortable around your equipment yet, and then you have the weather on top of that, it's tough. It's tough because even if you want to shoot, you are struggling with something else instead of being creative. It's not like you are free to shoot and be creative at the same time. But I agree with you, when the conditions are not spectacular, it's basically no more easy pictures, no more easy photographs. So you have to work for it, basically, instead of just pointing it towards the obvious subject with the light hitting the right spot, where you don't have to actually engage too much with the landscape. You just have to be there and shoot like everybody else, shooting towards the same place. But what I find as well is that when you actually tell them to look for different stuff, they really struggle a lot, and it's when you have to actually work. You have to be with them 100%, so you can actually guide them through, because it's hard to look for something that is not obvious. I think
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
And this is what it does help for me. I know not everyone thinks this is the right way to do it, and I'm not suggesting it's the way everyone should work. But for me, that's one of the reasons why I don't bring my own camera usually, because I just think it's easier not to be distracted by other things. So I've got a golfing umbrella. It's called a Gusta, that's supposed to cope with wind, and it's big, and I sort of hold the umbrella over people and their tripods when it rains, so that they can use filters. Rain and filters are not a great combination.
No. But it's actually hard. Yeah, it's hard. And the other things I want to ask you about regarding your work is that I mean, then you have this is more like the calm side of things. Yeah, it's more relaxing, everything is very smooth. The one thing you keep constant is your color palette.
Yeah, but this is a funny one, this, because again, this is you going to my Facebook, which is so old. That picture is no longer color.
Okay.
So there's a reason for that, though, and it's worth talking about it, because I use this in my talks to at events over here as an example, because for me this is too blue, and it was. So this was the before, and the after is a black and white version of it, because I wanted this picture to be very simple. It's called Teardrop, and it's about the shape of this pool.
Yeah.
And just the very the soft light. This is before sunrise, my favorite time of day, and just very gentle scene, and not about color. And for me, the blue, which comes from my filter, is too much, and it's taken over the picture. So I didn't bother to correct the blue in camera, because it was going to be black and white. So the black and white version, which maybe I don't know if you can edit it in afterwards. I can send it to you.
I can put it up.
Yeah, okay. The black and white version is much more what I like. I do love blue, by the way.
Yeah.
And I love this shade of blue. I call it Lee Filters blue, because it's a color that anyone who uses the old Lee Filters big and little stopper be familiar with, because it is a tint. A lot of long exposure ND filters have a sort of warming color. They're a slightly browny tint. For a seascape photographer, that is rarely what you want. If you're going to have a tint, you want it to be cooler, you want it to be blue. Yeah. So I often don't bother, even for color pictures, I don't worry too much about the blue, because sometimes it's what I actually want to have. I just think blue and the sea go together.
Yeah, because all of your images are kind of in this kind of color palette. It's a bit of a colder mood. I mean, it's because you don't shoot a lot when you, at least it doesn't seem that you shoot a lot with directional light. You prefer soft light, and when you have directional light, the light usually it's a bit warmer. Any reason why you choose? It's just because you prefer this quality of light instead of the other, or you choose this time and this color palette because of any emotional thing? Or
it's really what I don't like doing really is shooting into the sun. A lot of landscape photographers are the opposite, because they go out in golden hour and they point towards the spectacular sunset. I find that those pictures are always going to be high contrast, to be, because of the light when you're pointing towards it. And I dislike that look. I dislike the sort of, it makes the clouds that are in the sky look black and harsh against the sky. It lacks nuance, and I like nuance in my photographs. So I will almost always turn my back on the sunset. And I prefer the sort of painterly watercolor kind of sky.
Okay, yeah.
I just think that is more pleasing. And it's purely personal taste, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you think about, at least for me, outside of my office, at least, if I have a picture on the wall, I much rather prefer something like you had just described to something that is like in your face, sun coming through. I mean, you get tired of that much faster, of looking much faster than something smooth and harmonious and a bit more. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's there's even more to that. We're all trying to make a living from photography, and social media is important. You can't ignore it, really. Although I do ignore Facebook, clearly, because ages ago, but Instagram is where it's at these days, probably. So the trouble is, it's those dramatic pictures shot contre jour, into the light, that will probably get you the most attention in the short term on social media.
Yeah, true.
And the danger of that is that it can drive you to make more and more pictures like that. But because I have two businesses, one is the workshops we've talked about, the other one is fine art print sales through galleries. I'm always making pictures for that market. Yeah. And so for me, the end product is not publishing it on Instagram, it's printing it and someone buying it and hanging it on their wall, and they have to live with it for a long time. And it's just as you describe. I think that those instant attention grabbing pictures do not do well as long-term prints on people's walls.
Yeah. It's too much.
Absolutely.
It's too much.
I agree. Too much. Yeah.
I mean, and this one is again.
This is so funny.
There you go.
You know what? This is good. I've forgotten all about this picture. Yeah, I do remember taking it though. This is really good fun.
I tricked you without knowing, huh?
Yes, absolutely. I've completely forgotten about this. I have to go and find this picture, although I will get rid of that bright highlight at the margin at the top there, because that's distracting.
But the point of this image, I mean, this was in 2016, so it was.
I really like it. Why did I forget about that picture?
It was early on, but I really liked it, basically because, again, maybe now, I don't know if you will keep the blue palette.
I might, actually. I quite like it in this picture.
But I find it very interesting, the differences in texture from one side to the other. But although this was in 2016, and again, I just go, I didn't took the pictures from your Instagram because I was having trouble actually extracting them from there for some reason. What I see on your Instagram feed, so I mean, I took it as when I scroll from the beginning to the top, I took it as a progression. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But then you will clarify me. So in the beginning, you have a lot of what we've seen in the beginning, like very big waves. Everything is very dramatic. And now towards the end, you start introducing more intimate things. So a bit like this, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if this more, although your relation to the ocean was always intimate because it comes from a very long time ago, so it's are these pictures something that you are starting to make more now, or was something that you've always done? And if it's more now, is there any reason for that?
This is a really good question, actually, and I might give you a surprising answer. I've always done this sort of work, and I've always enjoyed it actually just as much as the big waves and storms. What has changed is my approach to social media. Okay. Because, and this actually is where I'm learning from being a workshops leader, because I'm teaching, I do a lot of creative development training with clients. That seems to be the biggest growth area for me. People now don't want to sort of just go out and make nice pictures. They want more of a sort of creative nurturing. And people which is lovely to hear. People no longer want to make the picture everyone else is making. They want to find their own voice, and that's what I'm spending more time on with my clients than anything else. And one of the things I tell them is, I say, stop playing safe with social media. Stop just posting pictures you know people will like, because that's going to make you a boring photographer in time, because you're going to end up only making photographs that you know will be successful on social media, or wherever it is you publish your work. For some clients it's camera clubs or whatever. If you only publish work that you know will be a big hit with your audience, then you will become a boring, and worse, a bored photographer. You'll lose the joy of creating. So I thought, well, I'd better practice what I preach. and so I am now on my Instagram. I still share old pictures. I don't believe my Instagram isn't about, here's the picture of the day, because I think that's an odd way to do Instagram, really. I'm not a lifestyle Instagrammer. I'm not sharing my lifestyle as a jobbing photographer. This is my office today type things. Those are quite annoying, I think. So I just publish what I consider to be portfolio work now. So I am. There are constraints, but I'm putting up work that I really like and I'm really proud of, but I know will not be a hit on Instagram. And I don't care. And in fact, if I were to examine my Instagram statistics, I haven't, but if I were to go and look at them, I'm pretty sure, you get a general feeling, that I would see the number of the amount of engagement with my work is declining. It's going down because of this change of direction. But I'm not going to stop, because I felt that creatively I was becoming stuck in a rut, and it's the wrong thing. And I'm much happier taking the risks and sharing other work.
I mean, I agree completely. And at least, well, you just post stuff that you consider portfolio worthy. But I mean, now I'm actually looking at Instagram more as my scrapbook. I mean, if I find something, it doesn't need to be portfolio, but if I like it, I just post it. And I actually, if you go to my Instagram, you can see that, for example, my last 6 images are exactly the same as you are saying. I mean, they are just very intimate, very small things. It's not like a mountain with clouds and sun. I mean, it's just something very normal. And probably the engagement is also lower. But I mean, if you just take it as a at least like I do, like a scrapbook, you just put stuff there and then you look at it from time to time. It's different than just trying to put stuff that people will like. You have to put stuff there for you, not for them. But that's basically it. That's basically
mine's definitely slightly different from yours. I'm not using it as a scrapbook. I've got one of those, but it's good old-fashioned analog. So I'm only posting work that I have printed and lived with.
Okay.
I have quite a slow process, but I am posting work I've printed and lived with that I like, but maybe no one else will. So the end result is it's a riskier approach to Instagram. But as you may have noticed, my Instagram isn't really overtly selling work, whereas some people are much better in a business way at Instagram. There are photographers I follow who, every time they put a picture up, they also share a picture of it framed, maybe in a room set, and a link to where people, or links on Instagram are hard, but you can find ways to connect people to your website or to galleries or whatever. That's probably what I should be doing. I might sell more prints if I did that, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel my style. So it's just a different approach.
And then I think this will be the last one, and it's interesting. At least for me, it was interesting.
Slightly scared.
Maybe just another oldie.
Yes, it is. This is so much fun. Yes, this is another one from 6 years ago.
And this caught my eye. I mean, I could have picked any other images. I just thought that the ones I picked and the order I put them in, I mean, this is the only one that is not blue, and it has some warm colors to it. It's very different, in my opinion. And this is clearly from your from the place where you grew, right? It's there. It's your home. And this might not be anything, but it's the only one with this warm and more joyful light. Does it have anything to do being the place where you grew up that brings you joy? I don't know.
Probably not, because actually, though you wouldn't know it because the cliffs aren't in the picture, almost every other photograph that you've shown is from the same beach. So that one, Fire Within, which is just a little white wave in the foreground and the dark stormy sky.
Yeah.
Same beach, just turned my back on the cliffs and pointed out to sea. The one you showed before it, the very blue one with the hailstorm out to sea, same place, same spot. It's a very special beach to me. It's called Burling Gap, and it's in East Sussex. It's just round the corner from Beachy Head, where the lighthouse is. So it's somewhere that I go all the time. And inevitably, I make lots of different pictures there, because if you go to the same place repeatedly, you will start to dig more deeply and come up with more variation, or you'll get bored. Somebody, I read someone said, if you're bored, you're not challenging yourself enough. I thought that was quite nice. But one approach for a landscape photographer would just say, well, I've been to that place enough now, I'm bored, I will go somewhere else. But for me, the response is, it's more of a challenge now, because I've done everything that is obvious and I've got to dig more deeply. And so that's why I really like going back to the same places over and over. But that picture has got a rainbow in it. Oh, no. I don't put rainbows on my website. That's far too cheesy. So this is actually, do you know what? I've enjoyed this conversation more than almost every other podcast I've done in the last several months, because you have chosen work I'd completely forgotten about. And it's actually provoked a more interesting conversation, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea this was going this way, to be honest. And this last picture was just because it's different from everything else. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we usually don't see from you, like a rainbow, a directional light. So everything was different. So I actually wanted to see, and since it was in the South Coast, I kind of thought maybe it's related to the place where she grew up, and maybe brings her joy, and it's a very different, but yeah, no.
Now, I think if you get a rainbow, you're not going to ignore it, are you?
No.
It would be rude to ignore it. But
Yeah.
It would never find its way onto my that's for sure.
So Rachel, it was a very nice conversation. I really liked it. Yeah, and thank you again for your time. It was very nice having you here and chat with you for 1 hour. I hope everyone will have enjoyed it. The links for Rachel's work will be down in the comments down below in the description of the video, so you can follow her on social media and visit her website. It's really interesting. If you don't know it, please go there and check it. Rachael, again, thank you so much, and it was very nice to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.